Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to another week of Marketing 2700 Design and Product Development. I'm Brad Scheller, and this week we're diving into what I think is a very important and underappreciated topic in the entire course, which is ethics and responsible AI design. So we've spent 9 weeks so far learning how to build products, how to define problems, generate concepts, prototype, test, and all of that is in service of creating things that go out into the world and affect real people. So this week we're going to stop and ask, are we building the right things in the right way for the right people? That's not a soft question. It's a hard business consequences issue. Regulatory risk, customer rejection, reputational management, and increasingly legal liability. So let's get into it. First, here's everything on your plate this week, and I'm going to try to walk through this quickly so nothing surprises you later. On the left side, you're watching this kickoff video, so that's a good start. Check that off mentally. And here's next is a full lecture on algorithmic bias and responsible AI, which I want you to watch before the discussion. Then you're reading the University of California, Berkeley AI Playbook and participating in a discussion forum on the HBS case about algorithmic personalization. That's a live case study with Apple, Uber, Facebook, and Amazon. We'll talk about that in a moment. Now, on the right side, chapter 12 in Ulrich covers design for environment. There's a short quiz worth another 0.8 points on your total grade. And next, your group is working on this week's, it's going to be about test marketing and a milestone in the product development cycle. So next, you're going to be watching my brand novel, which I've been working on for weeks. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. It's part 3 of the Journey of an Idea series. It's on YouTube, and you can download it and run it at fast speed as you want. It's a long one. And next, you're going to submit the NotebookLM check-in. That's worth a full point per week, and I'm going to be checking out over the last couple of weeks. And it should take about just a couple of moments if your notebook is organized. Finally, we have a Zoom session, as always, on Thursday. It's optional, but I encourage you to join if you have any questions about your group project or anything about the course in general. Now, the red bar at the bottom, this is not optional. The team research findings is worth 7.5 points. It's due Sunday, 11:59 p.m. Eastern. That's the biggest group deliverable point you've had so far. So if your team hasn't started, start today. So the first thing is the lecture on algorithmic bias, fairness, metrics, and responsible AI. I went soft on you guys this week. It's only about 8 minutes. It's going to go over some pretty interesting stuff. And that's a separate video. So this frames the core question for you, and it gets right into the mental model that we're going to be talking about. The question on this slide says it all. How do we build the world we want, not just the ones we inherit? And that's from this Ghost in the Machine lecture, I call it, and it captures the core problem. Algorithms don't create bias out of thin air. They inherit it. They learn from historical data, and if that data reflects decades of inequity, which most of it does, then the algorithm faithfully reproduces those inequities at scale and at speed. There are 3 root causes, and it goes over in the video. First is data issues. Your data that is used for training was created by humans in a biased world. Proxy variables like zip code or purchase history or browsing can correlate very closely with protected characteristics like race, income, or sex. So you don't have to intentionally discriminate for discrimination to occur. Second, the algorithm design. Most AI systems optimize for one thing, usually efficiency, revenue, profit, or engagement. Fairness is not the objective function because nobody can explain what that is. And, it's not really measured. So when a decision is made about what the algorithm is, it often overlooks these issues, and that's a problem. And the third issue is management oversight. Organizations don't test their systems across demographic groups. They don't build diverse review teams. And critically, they hide behind legality, like it's not illegal, it's the same as it's ethical. That distinction matters more every year as regulations catch up. The fairness framework at the bottom, I want you to hold on to these three tensions going into the case discussion. Individual fairness versus group fairness, process fairness versus outcome fairness, equal treatment versus equal impact. These are not the same things, and the case forces you to choose which one you care about most. And hopefully you're going to apply this model to your own project to determine if you're building something that is fair and equitable. Now, the reading this week is the University of California, Berkeley Responsible Use of Generative AI Playbook. It's a 2025 publication from Berkeley's AI Research Lab and the Haas School of Business. It is practical, it's current, and it's directly relevant to the work that you're doing right now. That 77% figure on the left is the one I want you to sit with. 77% of product managers surveyed across 300 organizations globally said they are uncertain about how to implement AI responsibility. That's not a fringe group of tech skeptics. These people are working professionals just like you, or what you're going to become, and they're building products that ship to millions of people. And more than 3/4 of them don't feel confident in their responsibility for creating responsible AI practices. That should be sobering, and it should also represent an opportunity. Because if you understand this better than 77% of your peers, you have a meaningful professional advantage. The playbook is going to identify 5 key risks of generative AI in product development. Data privacy, your users' information being retained or exposed. Transparencies, users can't understand or challenge AI decisions. Inaccuracy, hallucinations and misinformation represented as facts. We've seen that often. Bias, and we've seen that, we're going to be talking about it quite a bit in this week. And security, adversarial attacks that manipulate AI behavior, and you're hearing more and more about that. So the 10-play framework at the bottom distills the playbook's recommendations into actionable steps. When you read the document, pay particular attention to plays 1 through 5, risk assessment, data boundaries, transparency design, bias auditing, and feedback loops. Those 5 are the foundations. Load this document into your NotebookLM notebook before you read it. The audio overview feature will save you time, and the ability to quiz yourself on it will help you in retention. So you're going to bear with me on this slide because I have to pronounce some names. My stutter is just going to kill me. But anyway, we have a discussion this week that's built around the HBS case called Unintended Consequences of Algorithmic Personalization by Escarza and Israeli. Wow. Now I want you to give a preview of all of the 4 situations in the case, so you come to the discussion prepared. So first, Apple Card and Goldman Sachs. A husband and wife apply for Apple Cards. They file joint tax returns, share assets. The wife actually has a better individual credit score. The husband receives a credit limit that's 20 times higher than his wife's. Goldman Sachs denies any discrimination, but refuses to reveal the algorithm. The question is this a data problem, an algorithm problem, or a management problem? It's probably all 3. But where do you assign primary responsibility? Next, Uber and Lyft. Research shows that riders in non-white neighborhoods with higher concentrations of non-white lower-income residents actually pay more per mile on average. The algorithm uses demand patterns, which encode the effects of decades of geographic segregation, also known as redlining. The question is whether a demand-based pricing system can be inherently discriminatory, even if it never looks at race. Now, Facebook. A job advertiser creates an ad for a nursing position and targets it broadly, all genders, all races. Facebook's algorithm delivers it to 65% Black users because that's who its engagement model predicts will click. A lumber company ad goes to 90% male users. The algorithm is doing exactly what's optimized to do. The question is whether that optimization is acceptable. Amazon. In Atlanta, Chicago, and Washington, D.C., neighborhoods with majority Black populations are approximately 50% less likely to receive same-day delivery service than comparable white majority neighborhoods. Amazon's logistics model uses race-neutral variables, population density, package volume, delivery cost, but the outcome is racially correlated, equal process, unequal impact. Your discussion post this week should engage with at least two of these cases. I want you to take a position, not just describe what happened, but argue for what should have been done differently and by whom. Next, we have a reading assignment, which is Chapter 12, Design for Environment. Now, this is not necessarily correlated with our main discussion this week about fairness in systems that are being developed, but it's also important. It's the environmental design chapter, and it connects to, in part, our week's ethics themes. Algorithmic bias is a social harm. Environmental design is also about physical harm to ecosystems, to human health, to future generations. Both are design choices. That's the common thread here. Both have consequences, and increasingly, both carry legal and commercial risk. Now, 6 concepts to know for the quiz and for your professional work: life cycle assessment, or LCA, and that's the method for measuring environmental impact across a product's entire life, from raw material extraction through manufacturing, use, and end-of-life disposal. The key metrics are energy in megajoules, carbon in kilograms of CO2 equivalent, water in liters, and toxicity indices. When you see a product claim carbon neutral or net zero, they're referencing this LCA methodology. Now, the DFE guidelines cover 2 categories: materials and energy. For materials, choose recyclable over non-recyclables, avoid hazardous substances, minimize material variety because mixed materials are harder to recycle. For energy, design for efficient manufacturing processes, and where possible, design for renewable energy compatibility. The recycling hierarchy is a decision ladder from best to worst. Reuse is better than remanufacture, which is better than recycle, which is better than energy recovery, which is better than landfill. The key insight is that design decisions at the beginning of the product lifecycle determine where the product lands at the end of it. Regulations, regulations restrict hazardous substances in electronics in the European Union. REACH governs chemicals. WEEE governs electronic waste. In the United States, Energy Star sets efficiency standards. California Prop 65 requires warning labels for chemical exposure. Non-compliance doesn't just mean fines, it means market exclusion. The trade-off slide is the most important one for your professional judgment. Durability and recyclability are sometimes in tension. A more durable product uses more material. Local sourcing reduces transportation emissions, but it may increase manufacturing emissions. The goal isn't purity, it's net improvement. So what are the trade-offs and how you make those decisions? And the strategic point, all these used to be a differentiator, a way to stand out. Now it's table stakes. Your customers expect it, your investors measure it, via ESG scores, and regulators are tightening requirements and penalties every year. So it's an important chapter. So quick note on the quiz, as always, it's worth 0.8 points, small relative to the research findings deliverable, but it compounds with the other week by week quizzes to represent about 10% of your final grade. So it's easy points, don't skip it. The quiz covers 6 topics: life cycle assessment methodology, designed for recycling principles, the recycling hierarchy levels I mentioned a short time ago, the key EU and US regulations, and designed for disassembly and trade-off analysis. Allow yourself about 30 minutes to take this and make sure to read through the chapters before you take it. Don't just rely on memory from my brilliant lectures on this. You'll fail. So the pro tip at the bottom is the most efficient way I know for these quizzes. So load chapter 12 in your NotebookLM, then literally ask, give me 10 practice questions or 20 practice questions on life cycle assessment, and do that for each of the topics. And then ask, what are the most common misconceptions about the recycling hierarchy? It will generate a personalized study session using only the chapter content. So there's no risk in making things up or pulling from irrelevant sources. Now, students who use this method consistently score very high, but more importantly to me is it helps lock it into your memory so you don't forget about it 20 minutes after the course is over. And now we get to the big one for this week for your team. You've been transitioning from phase 1, the concept, to phase 2, building a prototype, and now we're in the test marketing phase, which that means you've done the research, you've been exploring the problem space. Now you need to show us what you found and where you're going with it. The warning banner here is real. This milestone moves you from build to test, and the quality of your submission will be evaluated with that in mind. This is not a rough draft. This is a professional deliverable. So here's what you need to submit. 6 components. First, a synthesized research narrative, not a collective of bullet points, but a coherent story about what you learned. Second, your top 3 unmet customer needs with evidence. You cannot just assert these. You need to cite sources, customer quotes, data, or behavioral observations that support each claim. Third, a competitive landscape overview covering at least 5 competitors. Fourth, an initial product concept with a clear rationale for why it addresses the needs you identified. Fifth, an ATAR forecast, that's awareness, trial, availability, and repeat purchase intent, with your assumptions stated explicitly. And sixth, your next steps for concept refinement. Now, it's 7.5 points due Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. It's 1 submission per team. And if you're uncertain about the ATAR model, I'll walk through it, and I walk through it in the journey on video, which I am going to be posting. The pro tip at the bottom here is use NotebookLM to synthesize your team's research before one person tries to write the summary from scratch. Dump all your sources into NotebookLM. Ask it to identify themes across sources and use that as an outline for your narrative. Then use Claude to polish the writing. It's the best tool for that. The AI network, the internet version is fine. The combination is powerful and saves significant time. And of course, I have posted the assignment with directions how to download the latest iteration of my guided process application. So it's going to do a lot of the stuff for you. It's going to be able to set up test market people, run through all these different types of research surveys, and generate reports that you can use. And next we have my long-awaited, long-promised part 3 of my 4-part series, my War and Peace, if you would, or more accurately, Marketing in Pieces for my TV series. I've been writing and rewriting this over and over based on one request I received weeks ago. Specifically, one of your classmates requested a big picture overview of how all the pieces fit together. Well, that person asked for it. I won't be naming names as that person is now under federal protection. But anyway, part 3 of the Journey of an Idea series is called The Organizational Gauntlet. And the title captures exactly what it describes. The Gauntlet's a series of challenges you must survive in sequence. That's basically the development to launch process, and it feels like that inside a real company. The core thesis is this: the number one reason a great product idea fails is not necessarily it's a lack of a good idea. It is the inability to coordinate across departments during the critical testing and validation phases. You've built the business case, you have a prototype. The question is whether your execution can be done by your organization. In Act 1 of this 6-part long video, watch it at 1.5 or 2.5 speed. It's on YouTube. You can download it that way or see it that way. In Act 1, it's the illusion. There are 11 major decisions in product testing and validation. They're distributed across marketing, R&D, manufacturing, finance, and have shared ownership. No single department controls all 11. The Boeing 787 is a case study. Engineering pushed for revolutionary composite materials. That's what they were tasked to do. Manufacturing outsourced to 50 plus suppliers across a dozen countries because cost efficiency was what their task was. Finance projected costs based on aluminum aircraft timelines. That's what history they had. Each department was making rational choices for itself. The product suffered billions in cost overruns and years of delays, so it didn't actually work out too well. In Act 2, the market test. Market testing has 3 tiers. The pseudo sales, which is simulated test markets, and speculative sales. I go over that in the video. Those are the fastest and cheapest, but they assume 100% awareness and availability of the product, which is idealized. Control sales, you sit in the middle, is mini markets, scanner testing, direct marketing, informal selling. Full sales is geographical rollouts and test markets. That's the slowest and most expensive, but it's also the most predictive. The rollout strategy is specifically designed so failures in one market get fixed before they spread to the next. In Act 3, the launch strategy. 3 connected topics. First, product newness. The more novel your product is, the deeper the investment valley and the longer the climb back to profitability. You have to train people to change their expectations and learn something new. Second, permanence. One-way doors. Brand identity, core pricing, physical hardware, anchor partnerships. They're all very, very hard to undo. Those are permanent. Other things such as pricing, promotions, they're quickly changed and their risk is a lot lower. Two-way doors such as ad copy, feature flags, landing pages, intro offers, easily reversible and great for experimentation. Know which is which before you commit. Third, some of the key takeaway points. Aggressiveness. Aggressive launches usually use heavy upfront spend to accelerate awareness fast. Caution or stealth launches use geographic fencing and minimum viable segments to find and fix bugs before full exposure. Balanced or phased launches are the norm, faster than stealth, but with kill switches to protect the brand. The launch cycle is another key takeaway. You need to understand the launch cycle to plan your launch. You need to train the sales force, build service capability, call in support, arrange stocking, distribution. Then the announcement. And that kicks off the beachhead phase where expenditure is highest and initial traction is built. Then the early growth as the product finds its footing. And then strategic launch decisions are based on how you span the 3 areas of concern, which is, product design, segments and timing, organizational, team structure, culture and speed, and industry, technology, environment, competitors, and partners. Also, in product lifecycle, it frames the long-term resource allocation after launch. The critical challenge in this entire process is moving away from early adopters who buy on vision to the pragmatic majority who buy on proof, Crossing the Chasm book. The strategy: find a beachhead segment, first use that success, then use the bowling alley approach, which you'll find out about, or ride the tornado into mainstream adoption. You measure new product development performance at both the project level and the firm level. So synthesis of all this. This has been almost 1/100th of the length of the actual video. 3 things, though, this video teaches. The coordinator who can align all departments becomes indispensable and gets promoted. A TAR, basis, and financial models provide inputs for human judgment, but they are never substitutes for it. Don't make your decisions based solely on that. And crossing the chasm is not a marketing pivot. It's a simultaneous shift across every functional area of the business. So this week we have a NotebookLM check-in. Now, I mentioned at the very beginning of the course that NotebookLM usage is going to be one of the things that's going to be graded upon. It's worth 10 points in your final grade. And I checked once or twice, but I wanted to see if you folks have been keeping up on it. So here is our surprise assessment. So your notebook by now should have all the cases that have been assigned, all the chapters that you've had to read, and all the external information I provided through links for reading, etc. I want you to take a screenshot of your NotebookLM notebook showing your sources that are loaded in the left panel, and I want you to upload that screenshot to Canvas along with a link to your publicly available notebook, and actually send that to me via email so I can check in on you. You should make sure that it's accessible to me. Last time, some people did not do that. So the reason I keep pushing NotebookLM on the right side of the slide is fundamentally different from GPT or Claude as a research tool. It only reads your sources. It doesn't know anything else. That means it tells you something. It's either accurate based on what you uploaded, or it's confused within those sources. And you can check that out instantly by asking, what sources support that? It essentially eliminates hallucination risk that makes AI tools unreliable for academic and professional work. Now, the 4 tips in the gold card: ask it to synthesize themes across all your sources at once. That's where it's most powerful. Use the audio overview feature or the podcast. If you have a commute or do dishes, it generates a surprisingly good podcast style summary, and you can even ask it in phone-in questions and ask it and have it respond. For example, ask it like, how does the Apple iCard case compare to Facebook's ad delivery problem? And you can use the quiz yourself before you do the chapter 12 quiz. And I personally like to do the video, which is always about an 8-minute video, which succinctly covers the information. It's a wonderful tool. Now, if you haven't opened Notebook yet, shame on you. Open it right now. And while this video is still playing, the setup takes 2 minutes, and get started on catching up on the work you're supposed to have done. So now we're getting into the optional phase of our little kickoff meeting, and the Zoom session, which is held Thursday at 7, genuinely optional. But I want to tell you what it's for so you can make an informed decision about attending. So I'm not lecturing. You're not going to find any new information unless something somebody asks and needs to go over. It's just an open conversation where you can bring whatever is on your mind. 6 topics on the left talk about the most common things students want to talk about in week 10, questions about the research findings deliverable, or feedback on your team's concepts direction, or help with the case or the Berkeley Playbook. Chapter 12, clarifications, AI tool troubleshooting, or anything else. This is me being available to you. So if your team is stuck on the research, the concept, the ATAR model, anything, this is the fastest way to get unstuck. I've had teams walk into these sessions with a weak direction and walk out with a completely clarified path. 30 minutes, 20 minutes of conversation, it's worth hours of confused writing. The link, as always, is in Canvas, and I'll announce it during the week. The session is not recorded by default, although I may record a portion if several students are asking the same question and I want to make sure that everybody gets the information. I'll make a clip available. If you can't attend a live session, but you have questions, post them in the week 10 discussion forum, and I'll answer them within 28 or 40 hours on the weekend. Okay, so I want to spend a minute on this because the stakes are real. And you can tell it's important because I pulled out my red crayons to highlight certain areas. 7.5 points. That's how much this deliverable is worth this week. And that's the highest per point weight assignment you've had in this course so far. So I want your team to treat this accordingly with respect and commitment. Let me be specific about what separates a 90% submission from an 80% submission. At 90 and above, your research narrative tells a coherent story. Your 3 customer needs are specific, not people want convenience, but urban professionals aged 28 to 42 will pay a premium for such and such because such and such. Your competitive analysis reveals something non-obvious about the market. Your product concept follows logically from your research. Your ATAR assumptions are justified, not guessed. Now, at 80 to 89%, the analysis is solid, but the findings feel somewhat generic. You've identified real customer needs, but haven't pushed it far enough into the evidence. The competitive analysis covers the obvious players, but misses nuance. The ATAR numbers look reasonable, but the assumptions are thin. Below 80, the narrative reads like a list rather than an argument. The customer needs could apply to any product in any category. Competitors are mentioned but not analyzed, and the concept sketch is vague. 6 submission requirements on the right. All 6 must be present to receive full marks. Missing any one of them will cost you points, and you can see what they're worth in the rubric. So this is due Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. And as you know, if you need a day or 2 extra, I'd rather you get it right than worried about the deadline. So I never am going to charge penalties for lateness. So let's finish. And this is in closing. You're now in phase 3 for test marketing, and it's highlighted in gold because that's where you're standing right now. Phase 1 was the spark. You identified a problem worth solving. Phase 2 was the build. You developed an understanding of the market and started shaping a concept and a prototype. Phase 3 is test marketing. You're going to expose your concept to the world or at least to structured research and feedback and find out whether your hypotheses hold up. Phase 4 and 5 are coming, launch and a retention loop, but you can only get there if you do phase 3 well. So Alan Kay, I always use this at the end many times, says it best. Best way to predict the future is design it, not observe it, not wait for it, design it. You're building things that will affect real people. If not in this course, you will if you get into this area. This week, the ethics lecture and case discussions are reminders that those people deserve to be thought about carefully. Their demographics, their circumstances, their biases, and yours. Design isn't just form and function. Design is responsibility. So I will see you in the discussion forums or in the Zoom session if you join. And look forward to your graded submissions come Sunday night. So go out and build something worth the effort.